Kia ora, talofa, welcome. We're going to start in just a few minutes, so thank you for joining us. E te atua nau te kororea te mana whenua o tēnei rohe tēnā koe hunga mate ki te hunga mate haere, haere, haere. Malo lava le soifua maua malalangi mama. Kia ora, how's it going? Josiah Tualamali is my name. I'm part of this talanoa, part of this conversation, reaching out to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand, from the bottom of the world at just after midnight. So it's a pleasure to have some time with you all. Tonight, this morning, whatever time, wherever it is for you, we have the privilege of hanging out with the World Health Organization, with UNICEF, and launching the Helping Adolescents Thrive Toolkit. That's pretty special, eh? If we could give a round of applause, I think we all would be right now. But as I said, I'm from New Zealand, and one of the special things that matters to me, one of the things that everyone on the call tonight cares about is adolescents and opportunities for adolescents. We know that for 14% of adolescents around the world, mental ill health is something that they experience. And there was a report that UNICEF did with young people around the world, where over 8,000 of them said at the end of 2020 that 3 in 4 felt the need to ask for mental and physical help around their well-being. So there's big opportunities for us to dial it up, make more opportunities, and to make it easier for our adolescents to get what they need. And for me, and what I think about this, we all deserve the ability to be able to get the help that we need. And sometimes we have to wait too long for that. But well-designed prevention and promotion, which this tool is all about, will allow the solutions to lead the difference. So it's quite special. I get to be part of this with you alongside our other co-host, Renata Samuels. And I'm going to hand over to her to kick off the evening.
Thank you, Josiah. Hi, everyone. As he said, my name is Renata Samuels. I am the UNICEF Youth Advocate for Belize. So it's pretty early right now in the morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning. So I've been involved with the initial stages of developing the package. And it's just so amazing to see us go from focus group discussions with youth to evidence review, to consultations with youth and experts, to having a toolkit that we can actually work with today. So to kick us off, let's go right into a brief video.
Adolescents and young people all around the world are going through a critical time in their lives, growing, developing, finding their place in the world, and most importantly, setting the foundation for later life health and well-being.
Talofa, kia ora. I'm Josiah, and I want to talk to you about adolescent mental health. Supportive environments in the family, whānau, school, and communities help us to maintain good mental well-being. However, this can be a time of vulnerability for the onset of mental health challenges, with half of all cases occurring by age 14. So we asked young people what investing in mental health means to them.
I believe that there is an urgent need to invest in our mental health as youth in order to build our resilience and protect us.
I am 10 weeks pregnant. I'm having anxiety and fear to go to the hospital because of the risk of getting infected. Investing in mental health is like investing for the future.
We have to remember our roots and accept who we are. It is often seen among my peers that they are ashamed of being Kazakhs. It may lead to identity crisis, and we have to deal with it.
To make a real difference, energy, expertise and funds must be invested to ensure that our young people can enjoy good mental health, despite the difficulties that many of them face. So, what investments are being made to improve their lives?
I'm Renata Samuels, the lead facilitator for the HAT initiative in Belize. I have led facilitations for the HAT initiative, conducted focus groups on mental health, roundtable discussions, and I just support young people that want to speak about their struggles mentally. Mental health taught universally opens the door for everyone to comprehend mental health effectively, advocate properly, and live harmoniously.
Now is the time to invest in these initiatives and to empower our adolescents to thrive. From local community project-based implementation to integrated strategies and whole of society approaches. This will benefit our young people of today, our future adults and our next generations, to give them all hope.
It was great to have that overview, and I just love hearing from young people. This is the whole point, that we include young people in all of these processes. And so now we're happy to hear from Devorah Castell, who is the Director of Mental Health and Substance Use Department for the World Health Organization. And she's with us, and he's with us today and we'll give a few opening remarks. Devorah?
Yes, thank you, Renata and Josiah, and thank you, Renata, for saying something of the young people and then giving the floor to me. So that feels like
you're as young as you feel, okay?
Thank you so much. I like that. And very nice to see you guys again. And thank you for the work that you do on this initiative. Mental health conditions are among the leading causes of illness and disability for adolescents. Suicide is the fourth most common cause of death in people between 15 and 19, and that should be enough good reason for us to keep doing what we are doing and develop the tools that we are developing and trying to make them part of daily practice and life for everybody that needs to take action on this in this area. And as half of all mental health conditions start before the age of 14 years, early adolescence represents a crucial time to intervene and prevent the onset of mental health conditions. The Helping Adolescents Thrive program, joint WHO and UNICEF initiative, aims at improving investments and actions for promoting mental health well-being among adolescents and preventing mental health conditions. And this is particularly relevant today in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, of course. Last year, we released evidence-based guidelines on psychosocial interventions for promotion of mental health and prevention of mental health conditions in adolescents, and Helping Adolescents Thrive Toolkit, that is the latest material of the program to be released, builds on the evidence of those guidelines and goes one step further by providing programmatic guidance for people working in the health sector, social services, education, on how to implement strategies that will promote adolescent mental health. And it's focusing on approaches to support adolescents and their caregivers according to their needs and to improve the environment also where they live. So there is a great demand to do more and invest more for the mental health of adolescents, and in order to improve their health and the life trajectories in the short and in the long term. So we hope that this dialogue and the WHO UNICEF HAT initiative can catalyze actions for adolescent mental health across regions. And the HAT initiative is the fruit of the collaboration between UNICEF, WHO, youth advocates, experts, and many country stakeholders, including many of those of you joining the webinar today. So we look forward to continue this collaboration and to see a change in the life of all those who need it. So thank you very much, and over back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Devorah. I just love the passion that you speak with, because this is what young people need. We need people that are in our corner that want to hear from us and that will look at the evidence and then go from there and try to create mechanisms that will help to benefit us, because we are the future, we are the now, and we're so thankful for the support that you guys are providing for us. So I'm going to look now on the remarks from Dr. Abukar Campo, who is Director of Health at UNICEF headquarters. Over to you.
Thanks, Renata, and thanks, Devorah, for making us part of this important launch. I'm actually thrilled to see that this launch is actually led by the young people, and to make us from the older generations really part of it. I mean, it's really great to see adolescents really taking the lead on that. Mental health is important, so is also adolescent. Adolescence is one of the period of time where, you know, the magic is happening, where young people experiencing new feelings, you know, trying to find their foot in societies, where physical changes are happening, but also mental health. And I think it's an important element which you should not forget, and where the influence on mental health is probably greater than in other periods times of the life cycles. Now, launching these new materials today is an important milestone, as Devorah has mentioned, for UNICEF and WHO and all the other collaborators on this important document, towards accelerating actions and progress on adolescent mental health promotion and prevention. We have seen with the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, and all the measures which have been put in place, like lockdowns, like you know, closure of schools, confinement, you know, these have been generating other aspects, you know, really gravely could have impacted mental health of people. And therefore, I think these tools will be providing some guidance of how to manage this, in particular for adolescents, or how to program, you know, in that sense, to improve mental health for adolescents in particular. To improve mental health of young people and their communities, we need to think of it as it needs to be everyone's responsibilities. If you're looking at this particular document with the different strategies put in place, it's really, you know, driving us to build a better society, a society where everybody is caring for each other, where we are not leaving, you know, anyone behind, in particular the young people in that sense. The health systems, education systems, social services, community, parents, adolescents themselves, we all need to be part of the solutions. It's not just solutions for some, and then for others, they should be finding their own way. No, it needs to be a whole society approach to really ensure that adolescents can actually thrive. And we hope that with that tool, I mean, this helping adolescents to thrive toolkits and tools, we really begin to provide everyone you know, solutions to make mental health in a much more important cornerstones in terms of preventive health, also in terms of advocacy for a better society. I hope that you will find today's discussion and these tools valuable. We look forward to continue collaborations on this important work with all of you together. Back to you, Renata.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abu. I just loved how you said this is everyone's responsibility, and it shows how we have so much collaboration, that there's so many partners that believe that we need to work together. It's not just one person supposed to do this and it's only gonna affect some people or so forth. We're trying to get a societal approach, you say, like when working all hands on deck. So I just love that aspect of this HAT toolkit. And so I just want to thank you guys. Thank you, Abu and Devorah, for those encouraging words, for your passion, for your work with us. We would now like to welcome our first group of panelists. And so first we have Dr. Chiara Cervelli of the Department of Mental Health and Substance Use at WHO. Kiara is WHO's lead on child and adolescents mental health. So Kiara, can you tell us a bit about the HAT Toolkit and what it covers exactly?
Thank you very much, Renata, for giving me the floor. It is a pleasure, for me to represent here the UNICEF and WHO HAT team and provide an overview of the Helping Adolescents Thrive Toolkit that we released today. So the toolkit is intending to help and to strengthen capacities in countries for stakeholders to plan and implement actions for promotion and protection of adolescent mental health. It provides a framework that is informed by the available evidence, by the advice of experts as well as young people, and by the human rights framework. And this framework or set of strategies cut across different levels and different sectors to really provide a strategy that country can refer to think about and plan and implement and monitor actions for improving the well-being of adolescents. The HAT Toolkit builds on the guidelines, the HAT guidelines that were released last year, but goes a bit beyond that, because in fact it acknowledged that for promoting the well-being and the mental health of adolescents, we need to address proximal and distal determinants, risk factors of adolescent well-being. So apart from strengthening the capabilities of young persons in terms of their interpersonal skills and coping skills, we need to address broader determinants of mental health, including socioeconomic determinants. So the HAT Toolkit actually articulates 4 different strategies, with the first one being about planning and enforcement and implementation of policies and laws, for instance, to provide access to education, or to ensure access to mental health promoted interventions, or restricting access to means of suicide. The second strategy is about the improvement of environments in which adolescents live, including particularly schools, but also the digital spaces and the communities. The third strategy is targeting caregiver support, because we know that caregivers, even in adolescence, play a very important role, and the quality of the relationship with caregivers, it's one of the important determinants, along with the well-being of caregivers themselves. It's also having a very important influence on the psychosocial well-being and mental health trajectories of young people. The last strategy is targeting psychosocial interventions with adolescents, and here the HAT Toolkit define a tiered needs-based approach, looking at what are the opportunities for providing access to universal type of psychosocial interventions, for instance, with social and emotional learning in schools, along with more targeted strategies to make sure that we have specific consideration for inclusive and targeted approaches that recognize the particular needs, but also particular opportunities for reaching some groups of adolescents that may be exposed to risk factors, marginalization, or other vulnerabilities. For instance, in terms of thinking about adolescents living with chronic conditions or exposed to violent or pregnant adolescents. The HAT Toolkit provides concrete tips for planning, implementation, and monitoring in the local context.
Wow, you can really see how the HAT Toolkit really encompasses so much. Goes back right to Dr. Abu that was talking about how we're looking and we're having everybody involved. So Kiara, how can stakeholders now in countries, including policy and service planners, advocate and others use this HAT Toolkit?
So a range of, the HAT Toolkit is actually targeting a range of stakeholders in countries, including young people, and including program managers across different sectors. And the intention is that the HAT Toolkit, by providing this framework of action, provides a strategy that the stakeholders can look at to analyze and understand, assess what is the situation in the local context, what are potential entry points for strengthening actions for promotion and protection of adolescent mental health, what approaches have been implemented and how well they align with the latest available evidence. There is a recognition that this framework requires careful contextualization in the local context, to take into account what is the local care system, but also what are the what is the impact of a range of inequalities on outcomes in terms of adolescent mental health, and also how they influence their access to different types of interventions that we could implement to strengthen adolescent mental health promotion. The HAT Toolkit also provides a range of examples of tools that have been used in countries already, and also it provides some case studies so that stakeholders can look at these examples and again, have some, thinking about how those could apply in the local context after, proper adaptation to the country situation. WHO and UNICEF are also working closely with collaborators and academic institutes to make available an additional set of implementation tools that can further help country stakeholders to implement the set of strategies that are laid out in the HAT Toolkit. Thanks, Renata, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kara, for this information. It was a lot, but you can tell that there's so much work being done here, and we young people, I speak for myself over here, but I appreciate that all the work that's going into this toolkit and the rollout and everything that comes with it. Now, we're so happy to have Dr. Jelena Janovic, the Assistant Minister of Health from Republic of Serbia, with us. Now, Serbia was one of the countries participating in the regional orientation workshop on HAT strategies earlier in this year. So Dr. Jelena, can you tell us about the plans for the HAT rollout in Serbia? Dr. Jelena?
Renata, Dr. Jelena has not been able to join yet. Maybe we can move with the program.
Okay, so I'm just going to move right along and then she can come in afterwards. So we're moving on to introduce Miss Cynthia Germanata, who is actually president and co-founder of Born This Way Foundation and WHO Goodwill Ambassador for Mental Health. Cynthia, based on your own experience working with adolescents through Born This Way Foundation, why do you think initiatives such as the Helping Adolescents Thrive program are so important? And just before Ms. Cynthia responds, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, we've been saying a lot of information here. Feel free to post it in the question and answer. We're going to have a question and answer segment later on. So feel free to post your questions. We want to hear from you. We want to know your opinions. We want to hear your questions. We're here to answer and work with you. So Ms. Cynthia?
Renata, I think Cynthia might be having a little bit of a problem linking in. So I suggest you come back to her in a few minutes.
Okay, no problem. I'm thinking maybe we can just move on to the next panelist for right now and then maybe come back to them.
Beautiful. Oh, thanks, Renata, for your energy and for holding the space and for passing it over for the next little bit. But to kick into our next piece, and don't worry, family, we'll be coming back. But we have Dr. Joanna Lay. And Joanna is someone who's been a deep supporter of the adolescent and the youth leaders that UNICEF has, which is quite special. So to see her in this role is quite different, but that's cool. She's the adolescent health specialist from the maternal newborn health unit of the health section at UNICEF HQ. Pretty sweet, eh? So I was just wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about the HAT tools and maybe how they might be able to support delivery of the toolkit that Kiara talked about?
Great. Thank you so much, Josiah. It's also good, and thank you for being here today as well. Yes, the HAT tools were developed specifically to support implementation of the strategies that Kiara has just talked about. And the intention was that it could be done in a way that's concrete and also feasible. For example, the tools that we're launching today were specifically developed for school-going 10 to 14-year-olds and being able to support delivery of psychosocial interventions to this group. The tools include a comic that is essentially about a girl named May and her friends who are navigating life as 12 and 13-year-olds. And the comic one focuses specifically on cultivating emotional regulation skills in this age group. So being able to learn to recognize and accept the different feelings that they're having, being able to understand how their emotions are affecting them, and importantly, encouraging them to practice helpful ways to manage the different feelings they might be having. And comic one is also set in the context of COVID-19. So the comics can be used to support adolescents as they're working through strong emotions that they might be experiencing in the pandemic. And the comics can be read as they are, standalone by young people, but it also comes with a guide for teachers and also lesson plans that can be used to support social emotional learning in the classroom setting. And there are additional materials that are being developed. We have a team of collaborators who are working with us to develop other comic and lesson plans to support other social emotional skills building. That includes stress management, assertiveness, problem solving, and relationship skills. And we work closely with mental health practitioners, with school educators, and also young people themselves to develop these materials because we wanted to make sure that information about mental health and ways of enhancing your mental health could be reaching younger adolescents in a way that was engaging and also easy to understand. Josiah, you mentioned earlier that in the beginning that 14% of adolescents today experience mental ill health. And that's important to remember. And it's also important to remember, well, that 100% of adolescents have mental health, and so does everyone else. And that 100% of adolescents experience many different feelings, face daily stressors and different life challenges. And so we want to make sure that they have the information, the support, and the skills they need to navigate through these different challenges, and also the chance to develop positive habits. And that's really what the HAT tools are about.
And that's deeply special, that these tools are created in such a way that adolescents' feelings matter. And that is a big, that's a whole new way to focus on how we're doing what we're doing. And then the opportunity to, as you say, for teachers to use the tools, but actually to read it with your friends, or to have it with take it home and share it with your family, for it to be an activity which brings others together around and to share those stories and those feelings together. That's deeply helpful. And looking forward, what do you feel is needed for HAT to reach more adolescents, and particularly in lower and middle income countries?
Yeah, certainly. That's a really good point. I think it's to mention that the HAT tools and the HAT toolkit, it wasn't developed, by UNICEF and WHO alone. It was with a really, really big team of collaborators. And I think going forward, we do need to continue engaging with these collaborators and even more collaborators so that we can develop additional tools, adapt the tools, and importantly, implement the tools. I mentioned that we have a team that's already working on, a team of strong collaborators who is already working on additional materials. And we also have partners who are working with us to develop other tools to reach adolescents beyond that school-going 10 to 14 age group. So adolescents who might be pregnant and parenting, or migrants, or older adolescents who may be out of school. And Josiah, you and I have also talked a lot about the need for better tools to reach adolescents from Indigenous communities as well. So, I think the thing about HAT is, regardless of what group we're working with, the core components of HAT remain largely the same. And that's important because it gives us a common and comparable framework to use across the board. But the development of the design of the tool and the delivery platform might differ based on different cultural contexts or different developmental stage, life stage, and psychosocial needs of adolescents across that 10 to 19 spectrum. And so having partners that we can work with to develop this variety of tools and understand implementation across different contexts gives us a better chance to scale mental health promotion, prevention, and also make it more equitable. Importantly, I think we need to work closely with government partners as well, and also engage with the private sector so that we can ensure we have sufficient and sustained investment for adolescent mental health prevention and promotion in a way that's mainstreamed. So thank you.
That's fantastic. And it's such a privilege to hear you speak in this forum, but then and just know what you're doing is more from here, which is where it's got to come from for the deep, meaningful change that we want to bring. And from one person who leads from the heart to someone else who leads from the heart and also dancing. One of my brothers from another mother, Muhammad, where are you, bro? It's time for you to say hello to everyone on the call. Muhammad,
Josiah, sorry to interrupt, but Miss Cynthia just got able to connect. And so we're just gonna give her that little time to quickly just go in. So Muhammad, just relax at the side. We're almost ready for you. Let the suspense build. And so we're gonna go right into it. So Miss Cynthia's here, and you, like I mentioned before, she is the president and co-founder of Born This Way Foundation and the WHO Goodwill Ambassador for Mental Health. And so I'm just gonna ask the question one more time again for everyone to hear. Based on your own experiences working with adolescents through Born This Way Foundation, why do you think initiatives such as the Helping Adolescents Try program are so important for us today? Ms. Cynthia? Ms. Cynthia, are you able to hear? I think we're having just some minor technical difficulties. You know how technology can be sometimes. But on my end, I'm not able to hear Miss Cynthia. I don't know if anyone else can hear her. So.
No, we don't hear her.
Okay. So I'm guessing we can move into Muhammad until we get Miss Cynthia back online, right?
Great. Muhammad,
okay.
we're back on, brother. No, sweet. That's good. It's quite special. He's a UNICEF young leader from Ghana, and he's a nurse. And we met actually it was 2 years ago now, in some of the work that we were sharing around young people's voice and adolescent voice being heard in health. Muhammad, when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being for adolescents in your community, what do you feel is most needed? Oh no. Oh, give it another try, bro. He might have had some music on and been dancing. He's particularly good at it. If you know Lovely Day, the song, yeah, it's a pretty special song. And the hands, the legs, yeah, everything. That's Muhammad. No, it looks like, unfortunately, we might not have you either at the moment. Well, we'll skip ahead and we'll try and double back to you. It looks like we can. No, I'm sorry, Muhammad. I couldn't hear you when that was over. So, oh, there you are. Can you hear us, bro? No, it looks like we're breaking up. I can. Yay!
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear?
I can hear.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, that is good. Okay,
we're all back on track. So, bro, just to recap. So, I was just wondering if you could talk to us about when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being of adolescents in your community, what do you feel is most needed for them?
Okay, so from what I'm seeing, I think we need to start from the basics because a flawed idea of mental health has been far existent in my communities and my country. Adolescents and also their teachers, caregivers, health workers need factual information concerning mental health and emotional well-being. They need to understand it. They need to understand the basics about emotions, how to deal with stress, how to communicate effectively in a healthy way with others, and also when and how to ask for help when necessary. All of this information are critically needed at this juncture. The high incidence of mental health conditions among the young people stem from different factors, and key among them are misconceptions and stigmatization of the mental health topic. Narratives like boys not needing to show emotions because it makes them weak or have to change, and I mean they have to change for the better. And so a lot of unlearning and relearning has to take place. And learn of such a hard toolkit, I think, is very, very important and a step in the right direction, and it's something to build on in the future.
Oh, it's special to hear you say that. And I agree with you too. It's important that our young men and that all people, but particularly young men, don't see it as being weak to speak about what's going on for us, reach out for the help so that we aren't causing more harm in our communities. But what do you think is needed to ensure that adolescents universally are reached with mental health promotion and prevention interventions?
Like I always say, mental health is everybody's business. And so to reach to adolescents widely, all sectors have to be involved. That is from health to actors in education to even those in social protection. So I'm absolutely glad that this tool was developed in conjunction with a diverse group of stakeholders, including young people made up of mental health experts, practitioners, researchers, and even teachers. But I hope in future, more health workers, parents, and religious leaders are engaged more in order to bring a greater universality and acceptance to the topic and also forge our way forward.
And in our cultural context, bro, we often talked about how you have your clinical part, but you need your peer, those people who have that cultural lived experience as you, and then you've got your lived experience. And so what you're talking about, I see the need for that as well. Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you very much for sharing with us. So next up, we'd like to introduce Bhavna Shrestha, who's a teacher from Kathmandu and also co-founder of My Emotions Matter Nepal. Bhavna, thanks for joining us. As a teacher, I'm just wondering, what are you seeing are the biggest needs and challenges that students are facing in COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly as Nepal is really facing a deeply difficult situation? So our hearts and our love are sent via Zoom to you where you are.
Yeah, thank you, Josiah, and really grateful for this opportunity, and glad to be here even amid this crisis, and to share about what things are going on. So the students have been deeply impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic in many ways, and the social emotional needs of students have been rising immensely amid this crisis. The fear, the anxiety in relation to COVID-19 infection, and the uncertainty is very high. Stress of having to learn in this very disrupted context, and at the same time, the loneliness from missing out on normal social interaction is also there for the students. Though there is a lot of emphasis on addressing students' learning outcomes in this crisis, very less attention has been paid to students' emotional and mental health needs. And from my perspective, I see that it's not just with the students, but even with the teachers themselves. We are also facing these emotional and mental health challenges. And since this social emotional learning has not been much of a priority in the past, teachers are not well equipped to help themselves, and let alone help their students. And when a student says that, teacher, like I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling lonely, or I'm feeling frustrated, many of the teachers don't necessarily know how to respond in that situation. And this ongoing crisis and loss has has predictably taken a toll on mental health, social connections, and emotional well-being of students and teachers. And the tools like the comic and the teacher guide are very, very critically needed. Something that we are launching today. Yeah.
Thank you. And I agree. We want everyone in the classroom or everyone on a school site or whatever place of learning to be part of the wellness story and journey. And so when you're talking about teachers' wellness being just as important, couldn't agree with you more. And so I guess, Bhavna, how do you feel these HAT tools can be of help in the current situation? And what role do you feel teachers can play in supporting the emotional well-being of students?
Yeah, Zuzaya. In short, it plays a very important role because teachers play a very, very critical role in supporting students and the crisis. And right now, teachers are reaching many households through virtual learning platforms. And both the students and the parents seek their support. I also working on the same. I get a lot of messages from caregivers about how they can help their children cope with their emotions, given that they were never taught this kind of a skill on especially managing emotions before. But with the suddenly heightened needs for having skills on social emotional learning, it has become an added pressure to teachers who lack awareness, materials, and resources in this area. So having the comic and teacher's guide not just helps us, but also helps us execute mini lesson plans in an easy way with our students. So it can help not just like supplement, but it also complements a teacher's lesson plans and classroom activities. And lastly, going through the HAT comics myself, what I have realized is that it not just models healthy ways of coping with difficult emotions, but it also helps them feel a sense of belonging. So in our context, I've always seen that fairy tales and some borrowed narratives of heroes and the stories, and there are a lot of stories which we have borrowed from like fairies and all to help children learn. So meanwhile, the comic series in itself has the real life narratives that present scenarios which they can see themselves in. So this can give them some validation of their feelings and examples of how we can manage them amid this crisis. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you. It's been a privilege to hear what you're doing and what you care about, the people that you love. And again, we just send our love back and thank you for your time. And Renata, gonna give it a power wish back to you, my friend, to take us into doubling back.
Thank you so much, Josiah. Thank you for the energy and everything too as well. This is what I love about us young people. You know, we know how to spice things up a little bit. And I'm just gonna check right now to see if Miss Cynthia or Dr. Yelena are able to connect, because we want to give them that time to speak, but we know technology kind of acts up. So we're just gonna see what's happening right now. Can either one of you connect? Well, you're connected, but can we hear you? So maybe let's test it out again.
Yes, good afternoon. Now I hope that we can
I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And please, can I continue in Serbian language with my translator here?
No problem. So I'm just letting
much.
everyone know, guys. Dr. Yelena is going to be speaking in her native tongue, and we're going to have a translator, so we have that extra spice there as well. Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you very much. Da, još jednom želim svima da kažem dobar dan i da nam je drago što smo deo ove fantastične aktivnosti koju sprovodi UNICEF u saradnji sa Svetskom zdravstvenom organizacijom. Republika Srbija i Ministarstvo zdravlja pre svega podržava sve programe koji su vezani za zdravlje mladih, ali posebno naš prioritet javnog zdravlja u Ministarstvu zdravlja jeste mentalno zdravlje mladih.
Good afternoon once again to everyone. We in the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Serbia are very glad to be part of this important activity implemented by UNICEF and the World Health Organization. For the Republic of Serbia and the Ministry of Health, our priority is the mental health of young people, and we are always ready to support activities in this area.
Ono što želim da kažem je da adolescenti, posebno adolescenti, u svojoj životnoj fazi prolaze kroz, da kažem, period izazova i susretanja sa raznim emocionalnim teškoćama u periodu odrastanja i suočavanja sa nekim novim životnim izazovima. U vezi sa tim, rekla bih da posebnu pažnju trebamo da obratimo na mentalno zdravlje adolescenata kako bismo im pomogli da na što bolji način prevaziđu probleme koje imaju u uslovima odrastanja, ulaska u svet odrastanja.
Now, I would like to emphasize that adolescents especially go through a period of great challenges as they grow up and they encounter new things and new experiences in their life. So we need to pay attention to mental health of adolescents and help them better overcome the challenges that they encounter on the path to adulthood.
Ono što mi znamo i što moramo da radimo kao država, kao društvo, na prevazilaženju problema mentalnog zdravlja mladih je da mladi mogu da budu suočeni sa raznim nepredvidivim izazovima u životu, kao što su problemi u porodici, možda nasilje, vršnjačko nasilje, gde mladi zaista imaju problem kasnije u toku života u rešavanju nekih važnih životnih pitanja, prevazilaženju problema, jačanju samopouzdanja i sigurnosti u sebe i na kraju kao posljedica svega toga može da bude ono što inače se dešava ukoliko mladi nemaju adekvatnu zaštitu mentalnog zdravlja, da se odaju upotrebi supstanci, droge, alkohola, što naravno može da predstavlja još veći problem za njihov dalji život.
We as a state and as society need to be aware that young people often face unpredictable challenges during their adolescence, such as family problems, bullying in school, and later in life. All these problems can exacerbate and lead to problems with their self-confidence, and unless they are provided with adequate mental health care and support, they can resort to substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, and these problems can become even more severe.
Ono što posebno želim da skrenem pažnju je da postoji jedna određena stigma među uopšte populacijom kada je u pitanju traženje pomoći za osobe koje imaju mentalne probleme. I upravo Ministarstvo zdravlja želi da podigne svest, pre svega mladih, ali i čitave zajednice, da se ta stigma smanji, odnosno da podignemo svest o značaju preventivnih aktivnosti u cilju očuvanja mentalnog zdravlja mladih.
I would like to draw attention to the fact that in the general public, there is a very strong stigma attached to seeking help for mental health problems. And we in the Ministry of Health wish to raise awareness of this issue and to remove this stigma and to also raise awareness of the need to prevent mental health problems.
Naglasila bih takođe da su svi ovi problemi posebno izraženi u poslednjih godinu dana, kada smo svi bili suočeni sa epidemijom COVID-19, gde je praktično najveću posledicu po mentalno zdravlje su upravo doživjeli mladi ljudi kojima je zbog epidemioloških mera, zbog prevencije COVID-19, širenja infekcije COVID-19, bilo uskraćeno i druženje, i zabava, i sport, i viđenje sa vršnjacima. Tako da u tom kontekstu moramo svi kao društvo da ojačamo naše snage i kapacitete u saradnji sa svim ministarstvima koje se bave pitanjima mladih, kao što su Ministarstvo prosvete, Ministarstvo omladine i sporta, Ministarstvo rada i socijalne politike, da radimo na programima koji će dovesti do poboljšanja mentalnog zdravlja mladih.
All these problems became even more prominent in the past year as we all faced the threat of COVID-19. Young people were the ones to suffer the most severe consequences of this pandemic when it comes to their mental health, because they were deprived of opportunities to socialize, to have fun with their peers, to engage in sports and leisure activities. Therefore, we as a society need to improve our capacities to protect and prevent mental health problems among young people in cooperation with all other ministries involved in youth issues, such as the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth and Sports, and Ministry of Labor, Employment and Social Affairs.
I također, da zaključim, želela bih da kažem da nam je od velikog značaja podrška UNICEF i Svetske zdravstvene organizacije, posebno u HAT smernicama koje će Ministarstvo zdravlja da koristi u cilju jačanja kapaciteta zdravstvenog sistema za brigu o mladima, poboljšanju usluga u cilju zaštite mentalnog zdravlja mladih i naravno ono što je najvažnije, podizanje svesti cele zajednice o značaju mentalnog zdravlja mladih.
To conclude, I would like to emphasize how important the cooperation with UNICEF and the World Health Organization is. They provide support to us in this area, and we will benefit from the HAD guidelines in our activities to improve the capacities of the health system, to improve the services for mental health preservation of young people, and most importantly, to raise awareness of the importance of youth mental health.
U tom smislu radujemo se budućoj saradnji i novim programima koji mogu zaista da daju doprinos mentalnom zdravlju mladih i spremni smo za saradnju na ovim pitanjima sa UNICEF-om i Svetskom zdravstvenom organizacijom.
To that end, we look forward to further activities and projects in the area of youth mental health, and we are at your disposal to continue collaboration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for those practical insights, Dr. Yelena. And I'm going to try one more time. We're going to check on Cynthia to see if we can hear her. So fingers crossed. Let's see, Cynthia, can we hear you? Yes, Josiah, two of them. Cross two of them.
Thank you.
Cynthia? Can you say something? I see you just. Oh no, we're still not hearing anything. But you look lovely. You do, loving the hair. So maybe let's just try one more time to see, maybe turn off your microphone and then turn it back on, just to see maybe that helps. No, it's still not working properly. Maybe we could just put maybe you can put a short message in the chat for everyone since we're not able to hear, because we still really want to hear your feedback. So maybe just because the attendees and the panelists and everyone can see when you put a message in the chat. So maybe if you can just maybe write up something and just put it in the chat so they can read through. Because I'm not sure if we're able to hear right now still. I'm not hearing on my ends. Maybe let's take some questions and we're going to come back and try one more time. We're going to cross our fingers one more time after we take a couple questions. So, as we know, we told you guys you can feel free to put in your chat questions in the box, and I've gotten all of them for you. And it's just been a rich discussion so far. Even with the technical difficulties, you can clearly see how everyone is working together, where people's hearts are. You can see how practically HAT can be rolled out, how it encompasses so much. And so we're just gonna ask Joanna, how were young people involved in developing the tools, Joanna? Because, you know, this is provided for young people, you know, we're at the forefront, but how were we involved in developing this tool in the first place?
Great. Yeah, I think this dates back at the beginning of the process. You know, WHO and UNICEF conducted focus group discussions in different countries. That's how we met Renata. Renata was trained and she was one of the facilitators. Focus group discussions were held with 10 to 14-year-old girls and boys and 15 to 19-year-old girls and boys as well, in both urban and rural contexts. And so based on kind of those conversations, we really got a good picture about how do young people understand, interpret emotions, what's important to them, what's you know, protective and risk factors that they see in the environment, what are solutions that they see. And that's something that Josiah has brought up before that I really, really love, is that prevention, promotion is an opportunity for young people and for everybody to be involved in the solution. And that's really what these focus group discussions were about. And then from there, we also have collaborators like Josiah and Renata, but also young leaders who we've worked with in actually developing the comic series itself. They also helped us collect feedback from 10 to 14-year-olds themselves. And actually, I think she's with us today, Aizat, our comic illustrator. She's a young person herself, and she really brought the series to life. Aizat from Kyrgyzstan. And we also have, young teachers who are part of it as well. That was such a critical part, understanding what the challenges and needs are of teachers. So I would really say that, that's young people's engagement in developing these from the inception to actually creating the content to actually technical review. They were really much part of the process.
I love
going
that.
forward, yeah, we continue to need that kind of collaboration.
I love that it's not just I come talk to you now and I'm going to do something else, then talk to you later. It's like in the inception, they're right there. You're hearing the discussions. And I remember clearly in Belize, that was a big thing that a lot of young people weren't asked a lot of what do you think? And so the discussion was so fruitful and people really just like were ready for more. They were asking when we're going to have a next focus group discussion. I remember that clearly. And I told you about that, Joanna. So it's just great how we have young people involved in this step. Intro all the steps actually. And so not to bombard you too many questions, Joanna, the next question is for you as well. Can you tell us a little more about how teachers can prepare and use these lesson plans in their classroom and also to remote learning?
Yes. So I mentioned a little bit about it briefly before, but there is a teacher guide that was designed to be used as self-guided reading and preparation because we getting a lot of feedback from teachers understood that taking them out and having a long period of training was difficult, and we understand that we can build upon already the strengths of teachers. So the guide has self-guided reading, reflection questions, some links to videos and resources, and was designed so that teachers could work through it individually. We also recommend it would be great if teachers wanted to go through it with colleagues or other educators, whether from their school or just in general. And the guide itself provides information on, mental health and mental health of adolescents specifically. It gives teachers also essential information on how you talk to and support adolescents' mental health. It also gives kind of overview of when and how you need to seek additional support for your student. And it also has these short lesson plans with classroom activities. And really, because the materials are both available in print and digital form, you can use them, feel free to use them in remote learning settings as well as in in-person settings. I think teachers are also going through that transition of how can we teach online. And I think these materials are developed in a simple enough way that you can show the image on your screen, or you can share the comics with your students and then have discussion either virtually, or you can ask them to submit written thoughts, and you can also feedback that way. So depending on the context, we're looking also at working with teachers to further adapt any of the tools so that it can be used across more settings.
Awesome. So more teachers involved. I love it. I love it. I'm just going to ask at this time, considering the time is almost up soon. Cynthia, if you could just maybe put in a couple remarks in there in the chat on what you believe for caregivers, because I know that was what you're going to speak about. So could just maybe put some points in there so people can hear from you, because we really do want to hear from you. And we know we're having that technical difficulty right now. I'll just ask, since we've heard about the psychosocial interventions for adolescents, can you tell us a little bit about the resources available for caregiver support to adolescents? That one's just maybe like an open question. So anyone's ball game for that one. So maybe Kiara?
Yeah. So you were asking about psychosocial interventions with adolescents, yeah, right? And I see, in the questions that there is also, there are specific questions around how to use the online type of training and how to use peer-to-peer type of strategies. So one of the strategies of the HAT Toolkit is specifically about psychosocial interventions. It builds on the guidelines. The guidelines is telling us, the HAT guidelines tell us what psychosocial interventions can be recommended on the basis of the available evidence. And then, if you look at the strategy 4 of the HAT toolkit, then there are examples of tools and also implementation experiences from countries around, the implementation of psychosocial interventions with adolescents. Again, thinking about what can be done to promote adolescent well-being, psychosocial well-being in all adolescents. For instance, life skills training, and there is, a range of examples, with one, for instance, focusing on enhancing connectedness in schools. And then, there is a range of examples also, for strategies to target and to benefit and to reach those adolescents that may be exposed to particular vulnerabilities, for instance, living with HIV/AIDS. I want to make a comment specifically about the digital medium and how, we are planning, for instance, to make available the teacher's guide and comic book, for online type of training, when schools are, still closed and happening virtually. Maybe Joanna can comment, but this is something that we have been thinking about a lot. And there is, we cannot promise, but, there is, particular consideration around how to adapt this for making it available as online tools. And we welcome any partnership, with any, potential collaborator to help us, work together to make available these materials for online delivery. So this is a call for interest for anyone, including young people themselves. Thanks.
Awesome. And sadly, as you know, all great things must come to an end. We're looking at the time right now and it's cutting it so close. And I know we have more questions. However, I found out that they're taking down your names, and after the webinar, they will be answering your questions. So don't worry, you'll be notified, your questions will be answered. So we're closing off the question and answer segment right now, and we're moving right into our closing. I just want to thank you guys for this great session, everyone. I just want to introduce now Dr. Taran Dua, Head of Brain Health Unit at WHO, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Use, for her final remarks.
So thank you, Renata. Let me start with thanking everybody on behalf of WHO and UNICEF. So thanks to all the participants from across the world. Your questions are actually telling us how engaged you have been at this webinar. Thanks to all my panelists, and special thanks to the moderators, Renata and Josiah. I am using a comment from the chat box that with all the technical challenges, you managed with grace and humor. So bravo, well done, Renata and Josiah. And also to the big WHO and UNICEF team behind the scenes who has been working to make this happen. So as you all heard, and I think this is preaching to converted, that how important this adolescent period is about thinking about the short-term influence, the long-term influence, but also thinking about the next generation. You heard about the HAT toolkit. It's a great resource, and it is also useful. In fact, particularly useful when we think about COVID-19 pandemic. I want to end with saying that a lot needs to be done by WHO, by UNICEF, by other partners, like teachers that was mentioned, by all of us. This includes, having country-specific resources, country implementation, targeted tools. I saw in the comment about what are we doing for teenage pregnancies or adolescents living with HIV/AIDS. So there's a long road ahead of us. But the point that is very important is that this all needs to be done with engagement of the young people. So nothing for you without you. And with this, thank you. A big thanks once again. Have a good night, Josiah, and have a good rest of the day, Renata, from where you are joining. And thanks once again. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.